I came to Penn State as a student before World War II, got a year in, went in the service, came out early with an injury, and I ended up working at Carpenter Technology. I sort of was a disillusioned young man, having been hurt and so on, and worked at Carpenter, married my high school sweetheart, took her along up to Penn State. She became a secretary at Penn State in the School of Forestry, and I went into metallurgy as a result of my experience working at Carpenter. Got my degree, came back to Reading in 1948. At that time, Penn State was offering extension courses for certificates through WPI, Wyoming Polytechnic Institute. And I was asked to come aboard as a nighttime instructor for adults, and did so for 3 years, teaching metallurgy. In the meantime, my career was advancing through Carpenter, and I got to see the value of what was going on at WPI, because we were hiring many two-year graduates of the WPI program into middle management and the like. Penn State was involved and would honor the schooling from WPI toward the bachelor's degree at Penn State. I became a great supporter of that program. So when finally Penn State took over, because the families that were involved in WPI did not want WPI to just disappear, wanted to continue in some way, and offered it to Penn State. Penn State took it over then, with Harold Perkins becoming the first head of campus. And he was a dynamo. There was no staff here for Hal. No development staff, no this, no that. Hal was it. Recruited some of us, the Tom Hamworks, the Jim Stouts, people of that type, to really come aboard and do a job building this campus. An interesting part of the history of Penn State Berks is how the various buildings developed here in this campus, and why we're where we are now as far as location is concerned. We started out in the old WPI building, and then we ended up in what is now the Burr Hall in Wyoming. The Toon family home then became our campus building. And then finally we got to this site. We got hit on this piece of land for two reasons. One, Irving Cohen, who granted us the piece of land where they're building a new shopping center behind Best Buy, and the decision was made that's not a good piece of land for the long-term future of Penn State Berks. So Irving turned around and bought back the land from Penn State, even though he donated it to us in the first place. At the same time, looking for the other location where the interests of the Toons and the Younsons to grant us options to buy land here at a good price. Once we got here, now we had to build buildings. And the first building was the Luerssen Building that was built, and that was state money. That came out of the state to build the Luerssen Building, and that was to be the campus. That was it. Administration, faculty housing, classrooms, laboratories, that was it. The next building came along, was built locally, by local money, upon approval by the Capital Campaign Review Board of Berks County, that granted us approval to campaign for the monies to build what became the Perkins Building. Again, a general purpose building of a theater, classrooms, food service, student union at that time. And that was the Perkins Building. It was not so named at the beginning. It was a building to do those activities. They approved that, and it was a very successful campaign, which was headed by Louis Toon. And from that then became another campaign 10 years later to build another multi-purpose building, gymnasium, a large convention type center, so on the campus. And that became eventually the Beaver Community Center, which was a surprise to me. I have the honor of chairing that campaign, but the naming of both the Perkins Building and the Beaver Community Center was not something we knew about. That was engineered by Kim Murphy. She really engineered that through the trustees and so on to get those buildings so named. And that's it. So the Capital Campaign Review Board approved that the Perkins campaign, Perkins Building campaign, the Beaver Community Center, and then later on the Franco Building. And the Franco Building campaign was chaired by my son, Thomas Beaver. And for a long time, there was no other campus that came close to this one in terms of the percentage of the capital buildings that were here. Berks County recognized the importance of having a major university presence in Berks County, being part of a major research university. And so that when capital campaigns identified Penn State as a recipient of the okay to have a campaign, people came aboard, industry came aboard. Unfortunately, today a lot of those businesses are no longer here. The Danas and so on down to many major manufacturing companies that were here, businesses. But they always supported it in a big way. And even though we have over 10,000 graduates, or thereabouts, in Berks County, Penn State graduates, we get very little support at the Berks campus. Less than 500 to 600 graduates support capital campaigns. Graduates. It's mainly been the local community that has done that, rather than the graduates coming aboard and really helping to build this campus or even build University Park. So any future capital campaigns, we must work much harder with faculty, of course, staff, but most importantly, alumni. And for the most part, the alumni has not come to the party. The Tune campaign built the Luerssen Building. Beaver campaign, the campaign that I chaired, built the Beaver Community Center. Then my son's campaign built the Franco Building. Tom Beaver, who's a Lehigh graduate, my son, built that building. Then the most recent addition to the library was a Bob Carty-headed capital campaign.